Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Andy's YouTube Food Skepticism. Today's topic is nutrition for strength training. It's episode 16. Today is Sunday, February 9th, 2020. Actually, it's February 8th, but I'm hoping to post this February 9th. Anyway, brief overview of what we're going to do. We're going to talk about, we're going to define what strength training is exactly, because there are a lot of myths about that. We're then going to talk about the so-called 24-hour cycle of response for nutrition. We're then going to break that down and to cover each of those phases of the cycle, the energy phase, the anabolic phase, and the growth phase. And then I'm going to give you some, just a little bit of fluid guidance and touch on some takeaways. So, strength training is defined as lifting a weight or resistance that limits your repetitions to 15 or less for each set. Anything 15 or more is generally considered endurance exercise, not strength training, but some strength will result from that. Also, keeping your range to this recruits more muscle fibers as well, and that's the goal when you're strength training. You want to recruit as many muscle fibers as possible, which is why good form is also good, as well as technique and contraction. Anyway, lifting mildly heavy objects in your day-to-day life is not considered strength training, principally because your goal is to recruit as many muscle fibers as possible, and just lifting some mildly heavy objects around isn't going to do that. But as little as one set of strength training can trigger gains. You don't need to do all these 3 and 18 sets and everything else that's listed in bodybuilding magazines. One set is fine, but you can do up to 3 sets. I recommend an 8 to 12 repetition range. I also recommend you work out on 2 non-consecutive days per week. So skip a day in between, allow yourself to recover, and give yourself the other days for cardio or recuperation. I also recommend you do total body training, hit up every muscle group, otherwise it will result in strength imbalances and possibly injury. And also focus on compound exercises, not the isolating ones. So better than doing bicep curls would be to, say, do chin-ups. And better than doing leg curls would be to do squats. I hope you get the picture. So the 24-hour cycle response begins at the energy phase, goes into the anabolic phase, and then into the growth phase, and then picks up the next workout. So you're back to energy phase. And if you see here in the watermark in the background, you can see the potential for anabolic activity wanes over time after the workout ends, and which is why we really want to target this with nutrition. So the energy phase is basically considered 10 minutes before your workout through during your workout. Your goals are to spare muscle glycogen or blood sugar stores. You're also wanting to spare protein, namely your muscle tissue. So by providing a little bit of protein, and we'll talk about this, you prevent your body from leaching from your own protein stores in your muscle fibers. And counteracting your workout, really. We also want to limit immune suppression. A lot of people don't know this, but during a workout, when you're stressed, it increases cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone. And by following optimal nutrition, you increase insulin, which actually suppresses the stress hormone cortisol. So that's how all this works. We also want to minimize muscle damage. Protein and branched chain amino acids are very important for that, but so are some simple things like getting adequate vitamin C and E. Optimal nutrition. Okay. So basically what we want during the energy phase or right before the workout to during the workout is we want a little bit of protein and some simple carb. So what I mean by simple carb are things like simple sugars, glucose, sucrose, maltodextrin's another one. We generally recommend you avoid too much fructose because it can actually cause stomach upset during the workout. So Maybe limit some fruit juices, but try an energy drink instead, perhaps, like Gatorade or Powerade or something. I don't make any money from them, so just get your own. So the ratio of carb to protein should be 3 to 4 grams of carb to 1 gram of protein. And a good example might be 20 to 30 grams of carb and with 5 to 6 grams of protein in that beverage. You want to consume about 12 ounces of that beverage 10 minutes before your workout, and then during your workout, every 15 minutes or so, consume a few ounces of it. You preferably want all this to be in liquid or easily digestible form for comfort as well as for optimal nutrition absorption. Keep in mind that during a workout, much of your body's blood supply is being supplied to your muscles and the muscles that are working, and less so to your gut. So we want to optimize how well your gut is able to function during this period. Um, so anyway, by doing all of this, you're going to increase sustained muscle force during the workout and endurance. Studies are very clear on this. By following this optimal nutrition regimen, you can increase your endurance as well as maintain your strength throughout the workout better. So the next phase is called anabolic phase. And this basically is up to 45 minutes. Some people say an hour, but generally up to 45 minutes after a workout. Your goals are to shift from catabolism, which is breakdown of muscle, to anabolism, which is the building up of muscle. And you want to increase muscle blood flow as well, which eliminates waste products from your muscles that induce fatigue and pain and discomfort. You also want to top off your muscle glycogen stores. Remember, that's your blood sugar stores. That's why carbohydrates important. You want to initiate tissue repair. That's where protein comes in. It also, the carbohydrate prevents that tissue from being broken down further or inhibited in its repair process. We want to reduce muscle damage as much as possible and optimize our immune function. So again, this is where protein and vitamin C and E come in specifically. So optimum nutrition for this phase is high carb and moderate protein. So a good example here of a ratio is 3 to 4 grams of carb to 1 gram of protein. That might work out to about 13 to 15 grams of protein and 40 to 50 grams of carb. Generally, that's probably going to run between 220 and 260 calories. If you're over 170 pounds, I recommend increasing this by about 50% or greater, proportionate to the extra weight that you have. Ideally, if you're doing strength training for the anabolic phase, we want to add creatine monohydrate. Contrary to popular misconception, it doesn't just add water weight. Actually, your muscles are majorly water. So the idea is, by the way, for creatine monohydrate, is that there is an energy system called the creatine phosphate system that is used during quick exertions of muscle, like sprints or lifting weights. And when you go ahead and you add creatine monohydrate, the theory is that you're stocking your muscles chock full of the creatine so that you support this creatine phosphate system in action. And again, ideally, we want this to be in liquid or easily digestible form. So the final phase is called growth phase, and this basically begins after the end of anabolic phase, so about 46 minutes or an hour and 1 minute, whichever you prefer, after your workout to the very beginning of your next workout. So what we want here is moderate carb and moderate protein. The general recommendation, the RDA as it's called, the recommended dietary allowance, which is supposed to function well for about 98% of healthy adults, recommends 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight minimum. However, we find that an excess of 20% protein or more may actually be retainable. But our goal throughout all this, especially considering people are different body weights and different intensities of working out, we want to keep positive nitrogen balance. Where do we get nitrogen from? Protein. That's all we're pretty much using the protein for, is its nitrogen content. So you may go as high as 2.75 grams per kilogram of body weight. So my recommendation is shoot for between 2 and 2.75 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day for those who are training hard. I recommend a minimum ratio of 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. So that's slightly higher than the RDA, but not so much so that it's ridiculous. And so here we are back again. The recommended ratio is 3 to 4 grams of carb per 1 gram of protein. Keep in mind that during the growth phase, especially, you want to avoid really going overkill with carb, principally because once you exceed your carb stores, and assuming you're being well fed, you're going to probably spill over and induce fat storage. So this is one reason we don't want to do that. So just something to be mindful about. Fat carb is not evil. Again, we need this throughout all these phases, but it's important to keep it to moderation, okay? So just a quick note on fluid replacement. Fluid is perhaps the most important factor. Even something as little as a 5% fluid loss results in significant performance loss. So more important than the carbs, more important than the protein and all that other stuff, maintain hydration. And I keep this to one slide because it's relatively simple. But you want to weigh yourself before and after exercise. And you look at the weight that you've lost, that's actually equivalent to your fluid lost. That's not body fat going away that quickly, guys. So remember, it takes about 3,500 calories burned to lose 1 pound of body fat. So do not confuse the fluid loss with body fat loss. If you can exercise 3,500 calories worth, I'd be damn impressed, and you can contact me about your efforts. Anyway, one way to replace this is to think 3 fluid cups or 24 ounces of water per 1 pound of weight lost is ideal. Anyway, I will give you some fluid ideas here, or excuse me, fuel ideas here in a future lecture, courtesy of the Olympic Committee. But you can probably imagine where your carb and protein sources can come from yourself. Here's some references. Thank you again, everyone. And if you like this content, please remember to hit like and subscribe so that way you're notified about future videos added here. Thank you very much and have a great night.